You been watching some of the Raptors teams?
I watched the Raptors. I went to a game about a month ago.
All right, shout out to the Raptors. Good shot. You know what I'm saying? I love
AG.
Scottie. I'm glad they didn't make any trades. I love Fred. I love Siakam. I love their core. You like Scottie Barnes?
I like Scottie Barnes.
Shout out to Scottie Barnes.
Barnes.
Right. Young fella, nice, man.
I think that was a great pick for them.
It was, man. He the
like I said, they got great wings and this and that, so he's definitely gonna be the future. They're in the play-in right now, so hopefully they can win and get it one of these good teams. They said good in the East, but not their record's good. Don't mean they good.
Yeah, man, you know.
Bro, you was about to say mints or something. You were saying
It's cool. That's a little man on your shoulder. Is that a little man on your shoulder?
yeah, that's the bad side too.
How's it going, y'all? Hope you're enjoying the first day of the play-in tournament. Just soaked up that Miami Heat Atlanta Hawks game. I gotta tell you, I really thought the Heat were gonna win, and then I saw how they came out, and I was like, and it completely flipped my tone. I want to say 8 possessions into the game. That's how quickly it was apparent to me that the Hawks were gonna win that game. Shooting is really an important skill in the NBA, especially when teams like the Hawks can put up so many points on the board. And I gotta be honest, I don't think the Miami Heat came to play tonight, but kudos, man, to Kyle Lowry. What a performance from him. He had 18 points or 19 points at the half. He really willed this team back when they got in the hole, 24 points. And you know, they pushed a little bit in that third quarter, and you know, kudos to Quinn Snyder. He calls timeout, boom, and they adjust. It goes away again from them, calls another timeout, boom, and they weather the storm. Runs are going to happen in the NBA. Momentum is very important, and I really like how the Hawks are playing under Quinn Snyder. Couldn't help but notice that Charles Barkley said, this isn't really, you know, even a debate in the Eastern Conference, that there's nothing that he said basically the first round in the East was highly predictable, that he would put $1 billion or $1 million or whatever he said on the top 3 seeds coming through in their first round matchups. And that is specifically, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Boston Celtics. So really that leaves the Cavs and the Knicks as the only debatable first round matchup, as per Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and the TNT staff. Do I agree with this? No, I don't. But it's interesting to think about. So the Raptors now have won a date in Destiny, or date with Destiny. Now I realize that a lot of Raptor fans have checked out on this season. It is so obvious. Just reading the boards and reading what people are saying. They're saying we don't have a chance in hell against Milwaukee. This is completely stupid. This is like participation medals. I was expecting the game tomorrow to be like the prices to be absurd. The prices are not absurd. That they're less than some regular season games. I was really surprised by that. I was just checking out Real GM today. They introduced a rule where if you're rooting against the Raptors, you can't post. I was like, how bad has this gotten? I get it. I get it. I fully understand it. But let's talk about it, because if you are a fan of the WWF or the WCW back in the 90s or early 2000s, or if you like professional wrestling at all, this is like a storyline built in, Vince McMahon's, like in the back of his brain. Not only do we face DeMar DeRozan tomorrow night, his chance at redemption, for guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, it's, teacher meets student, that whole dynamic. There's such an intriguing element to that. Everything's about rivalries, right? Everyone knows DeMar was salty when he left, that these guys still have a tremendous amount of respect for him. But I think that it makes something that could be rather pointless kind of eventful. Now, add the cherry on top. If you get through tomorrow night, which, I mean, I have said that I think 65%, I think the Raptors get through tomorrow night, but a lot of people would disagree with that. And I'm shocked at how many people are picking the Bulls tomorrow night, man. A lot of smart people I know are like, the Bulls are a better team. Zach LaVine's too talented. You only have one OG Anunoby. The other guy's going to go off. Patrick Beverley is going to put, Fred VanVleet in a box. I don't think so. I think the Raptors come through tomorrow night. So not only do you have tomorrow night against DeMar DeRozan, now you have a Friday night date with Destiny, Kyle Lowry, and the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry. In a lot of ways, the team that went to the finals in your place because of what happened in the bubble. Could put it that way. In a lot of ways, this is teacher and student, Fred versus Kyle. The whole, I gotta tell you, what I watched tonight, it made me miss Kyle, because it's exactly the type of thing that we've been missing all year. Is someone who could just do whatever was necessary, take charges, score off the ball, push the tempo. He was just doing everything to will his team to victory. It didn't work, but it was a hell of a valiant performance, and it really reminds you, and maybe even makes you proud, that he is the greatest Raptor of all time, and that he wears that badge so proudly. But now you got to go through him at home. But it's not just a home game for Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero and Gabe Vincent. It's also a home game for Scottie Barnes. Scottie's played well in Miami. His family's always in attendance, and you can bet they'll be there. Fourth row, corner, cheering on, as they always are. It should make for a very interesting Friday night, should the Raptors get through. Troy Knight's saying we should have kept Lowry instead of Fred. Yeah, sure. I see where you're coming from on that, for sure. So, what are you guys feeling? Lines are open if you wanna have a quick talk. This is not gonna be a long live or whatever. I just wanted to talk about a little bit of what I saw in that Miami and Atlanta game that I liked and what I didn't like. So first, if we do face off against this Miami team, I think we have the potential to do a lot of what Miami did to them, what Atlanta did to them on the glass. If Bam Adebayo is going to continue to be soft, we can spam them with offensive rebounds. It's something we already do very well. And add insult to injury, we have Jakob Poeltl, Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa. It's also a revenge game for Precious Achiuwa. Add that to the storyline. He gets to go back to, the team that gave up on him after 1 year and put up like a really big performance. Do you like our shot against Miami? Jimmy Buckets did not show up tonight. I was expecting him to turn it on like 100 different times, and it was just like... Now this presents sort of the second thing I wanted to talk about. The advantages of being the 7th seed. I was looking back at the 2016-2017 playoff bracket. The number 1 seed that year was the Boston Celtics. The number 2 seed was the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you imagine if you were the 7th seed that year and you didn't want to face LeBron in the first round. The only thing you would have to do to not face LeBron in the first round is to lose your first playing game. This is a very, very new thing for the NBA. You know, the first seed and the second seed do not have the right to technically determine who their opponent is going to be in the play-in. But the 7th seed is the only team that actually does. The 7th and 8th seed technically both have an opportunity to either drop to 8 or stay at 7 if they want, if they're talented enough to do that. Now, obviously, you don't suggest tanking a play-in game. That would be stupid. But would it be that stupid if you really don't match up well? I mean, playoffs are all about matchups, right? They have a big, you don't have a big. They play super fast. You're an older team. Some teams just don't match up well. Look at I always bring it up. The Mavericks and the We Believe Warriors, they just did not match up well. So the 7th and 8th seeds have a very new element of power in the NBA that was not present 3 years ago. The home team has tended to win a lot of play-in games. I can't remember the record off the top of my head, but it is an overwhelming. It was like 80 to 90%. I was reading now to the specific point of let's just tank and get the lottery pick talk. I would love for this season to end up in one of two extremes. Obviously, I would love for this season to end up in a championship or a Victor Wembanyama. I think we're all in that sort of boomer bust, situation of, okay, well, if we can get the 10th pick, it's better than getting the 12th pick or the 13th pick or getting, mollywopped by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. But if you can get past the Milwaukee Bucks somehow, you suddenly have a pathway to the conference finals and the team gels at the right time. What we're watching with the Atlanta Hawks tonight, what I saw with the Atlanta Hawks tonight, apart from, an almost self-implosion from Trae Young, turning the ball over a lot, was a team that was just playing together despite a lot of noise. Trae Young addressed it in the post game where he said, whatever's going to happen in the summer is going to happen in the summer. There's a report by Kevin O'Connor saying that the Hawks ownership has greenlit trading Trae Young. And this news pretty much comes out at the play-in. And that's a lot of distraction. And it comes out via Kevin O'Connor. Was that irresponsible to release right now? But the Raptors are in a similar situation as the Hawks. It hasn't worked. They have a very ball-dominant guard who has sort of refused or proven to be a little incapable playing off ball. But as I watched Trae Young weave in and out of the Heat defense, as I saw him pulverize and pick apart their defense with behind the back passes, it really made you realize what the Raptors are missing. It's someone who can break down that first line of defense at will, draw a double, make a great pass, find open shooters, and then subsequently shooters who can actually hit those shots. It's been a little bit tough for the Raptors, but it's not like Gary and OG can't make shots. It's not like Fred hasn't had, a hot stretch of games. So let's see if the Raptors can get hot right now. To those of you who are rooting for the other side, and I hear you, and maybe I've been with you for most of the year, and I might still be with you if the Raptors come out and lay an egg tomorrow in the first half and they don't look connected and they look, to be playing iso ball and it looks like Fred and Pascal are doing their own thing. I might be right with you. But right now I'm just trying to be objective and analytical about this. There was an article released today, which I will share in the comments afterwards, and I encourage you to read it. And it breaks down the value of every single draft pick on a scale of 1 to 100. It's a very interesting article to anyone who likes numbers. I like numbers, so obviously I read it very thoroughly. It paints two different ways to look at draft picks. Number one, by win shares. the expected win shares produced by a particular draft pick. The second is by all-star appearances expected at that draft pick. I don't think this is a perfect science, but it's onto something. I've wanted to do something like this like for years, and I've sort of lacked the time or the ambition to do it, but I'm going to do it for sure at some point this summer. I'm going to look at it. And so you start to ask yourself, what is the difference between a 10th pick and a 13th pick? Now, obviously, you're going to point to the extremes. You're going to find the best player ever picked at the 13th pick, and you're going to find the worst player ever picked at the 10th pick, and that is not objective analysis. You could also say that, well, with a talent evaluator like Masai Ujiri, the higher you pick, the better. You don't want to miss out on a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who slips one spot ahead. I get that. But the results of this analysis were that there was almost no difference between the 10th pick and the 14th pick in a draft. It was minimal. 10 to 14 was pretty flat. There was a fall off. It happened around pick 18. There was another fall off that fell off around 4, and then there was another fall off that fell off around 1. So if the first pick represented a value of 100, the second pick almost always represented like a value of like 57 or 52. It was a big fall off after 1. And this draft will probably be like that because Victor Wembanyama is a legit 1. Some drafts, they don't have a legit 1. This draft does. But after that, 2 to 4, 2 to 5, pretty flat. 5 to 10, pretty flat. 11 to 15-ish, pretty flat. So, if you've already kind of cost yourself the opportunity to go one way, why not try to go the other way? We can definitely talk about that. I liked how the Hawks played tonight. They crashed the glass. They moved the ball. What Trae Young and DeJounte Murray did was show the value of dynamic isolation scorers in tight playoff moments. And I think what the Heat lack really is that, right? The Hawks are not good defensively, but I think also what you notice with the Hawks, to anyone out there who, maybe wants to trade for a defensive liability because they're so good at scoring, is how easily they were able to pick on Trae Young with Tyler Hero in the beginning of the third quarter. I mean, he was consistently out of plays. They had to help him. They had to scramble. Trae Young's offense is a really big part of why the Atlanta Hawks have a puncher's chance of stealing a game from Boston. He can get really hot. But his defense is the reason that no one in their wildest imagination would take 100 to 1 odds type of bet that they could beat Boston in a 7-game series. Because the compounding effect of a player that plays that many minutes and doesn't play a lick of defense, he might be one of the worst defenders in the NBA. It's so intense. It takes so much effort to try and overcompensate for that. So, I don't know. Let's bring on Diabloloco. Diabloloco, man, what's up? Hello? Hello?
Is that it?
Hey, man, what's up?
Hey, man, I'm hearing two audios. So I wonder how I can turn one off, like a delayed feed and you right now.
Turn off your YouTube.
Oh, cool. 1 second. Please forgive me.
We may have lost him. Head on Fire saying, why isn't your widescreen fully covering your mic? It's irrelevant, I know, but it's driving the OCD in me nuts. The widescreen covering my mic? I don't understand this question. Have you checked? I don't think that necessarily is going to be a problem. I'm more worried about length on Fred VanVleet, to be honest. Yeah, and if I know Scottie, he's up until 2 a.m. throwing up shots too. They'll probably become fast friends. Um, Look, I mean, to preview sort of the Chicago Raptors series tomorrow, or the mini series, the one game thing. The reason that, and I heard out the arguments from people who were picking the Bulls, and their arguments were two-pronged. Number one, and I'll give you my rebuttal on it. The arguments were that since January, the Bulls have been a really good defense. And this has been exacerbated by adding Patrick Beverley. They've sort of been missing that lead guard, spiritual leader, if you will. And he's sort of pulled them together and he's motivated them to play defense somehow. It doesn't change the fact that DeMar and Zach LaVine are still abysmal defenders. Like, it does not change the fact that they're bad defenders. It does not change the fact that if you put Nikola Vucevic in spread pick and roll, that he's going to be a liability. It doesn't, change the fact. I think one of the biggest issues for the Raptors, ironically, is going to be in tomorrow's game, is that Jakob Poeltl is exactly the type of player that Nikola Vucevic can actually guard. So I would be very interested to see if Nick Nurse decides to go with Precious Achiuwa early on. It's just a better matchup. Now, on the other end, obviously, Nikola Vucevic is going to have a very difficult time guarding Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl will have a very easy time guarding Nikola Vucevic, or an easier time than most bigs. But I would rather that we be able to destroy their defense than be able to stop Nikola Vucevic. He's been decent this year. He hasn't been as, terrible. My rebuttal to them saying, well, Zach's on a tear and all that stuff is quite simply, I really like OG's matchup with DeMar. Historically, he has kept him at bay. He's been really good at that. Okay, we're going to bring Diabloloco back on. Diabloloco, man, what's up?
Yo, Rob, man.
How's it going?
Good. Yo, big fan. I love everything you put out there.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. So regarding the topic at hand, like, can we squeak by the Bulls? The only thing I'm concerned about is that they're kind of playing for each other a little bit more than we are.
I see that, yeah. I checked out some clips from their practice yesterday. Damn, they look connected.
There you go, sir. So that's the only concern, right? And like, considering how our season has gone, and like, I can't even believe it. When you told us what you believe is happening with Freddie, I was like, man, I can't believe it, because I rooted for the guy. He's from the bottom and stuff. We all got really good characters in our team.
Yeah.
That's what Masai does, right?
Yeah.
But he chooses good people, I feel. I don't know, like, at the end of the day, we don't know really what's happening in his mind, but like, we can only see actions, right? And the actions kind of gives you an idea of what they may be thinking, right? So it's like,
yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of talks about this with people recently, right? People who are more connected to it than I am. And they're just like, well, can you blame them, right? It's a sort of imperfect system that we're in, right? We're in a system where we reward stats with money. So we reward numbers with other numbers, right? So if the Raptors wanted to commit, 130, whatever he wanted, right, at the beginning of the season, right, because he thinks he deserves it, and you can argue he probably, he has massively outperformed all his contracts so far, right? That's what Gilbert Arenas said when he got paid. He said, you're not paying me for what I'm gonna be. You pay me for what I've been, right?
okay. Yeah.
Smart GMs would probably disagree with that, but I see where he's coming from on that. So he's looking at this like, yo, I've been underpaid my whole life. I was undrafted. I didn't get $8 million like Scottie, but I outperformed that contract. Then I get the next contract. I outperformed that contract. Then I get this contract that I'm on right now, and I've definitely outperformed that, because where are you getting a fucking all-star for $20 million? So I outperform all three contracts. Yeah. Now you can overpay me the way you kind of overpaid Kyle. And they're like, yeah, but maybe no. And, maybe he's feeling some way about it too. And the same thing with Pascal, like Pascal, Jaylen Brown, Ja Morant. Those are three players that are probably going to be shafted from All NBA for all different reasons. Ja definitely doesn't deserve it, in my opinion. He's been great.
But I mean, on the court, yeah, but like,
What does that have to do with basketball though? Like my perspective is All NBA should be a reflection of the best players on the best teams, who had the best seasons. Ja's had a great season, and yeah, he waved a gun on Instagram. And should that cost him $40 million? To me, it feels like a whole bunch of white voters are gonna take their frustrations about what he did out on him. And, there's no real objective reason for it, man. Like, people are trying to talk about Dame Lillard over him. And I'm like, Dame is on, like, a lottery team. I understand he had a great season, but to me, it's like, even the fact that we're talking about how a whole bunch of voters have the opportunity to basically take $40 million out of someone's pocket, to me, is a little bit weird because, JJ Redick is one of the smartest people that cover the NBA. And I was listening to him talk about his All NBA picks, and I was shocked. He put Dame and Steph on All NBA third team. He put LeBron on All NBA third team. He left Julius Randle off. He left Siakam off, which I'm fine with. I agree with that. And then on the second team, he put De'Aaron Fox. And then he's talking with this dude about Ja Morant, and he's like, well, if Ja's coming on, he's coming on in place of De'Aaron Fox. And I'm like, wait a second. You would bump your second team All NBA dude as opposed to bumping your third team All NBA dudes because you have this idea that Dame and Steph need to be on the All NBA team. And this is like, that's one of the smart dudes, and that's how he's thinking about it. I'm like, yo, I don't even know how these other people are thinking about it. Most of these people who are voting on this probably haven't watched a single Raptor game all year. So it's like, how are they supposed? You know what I mean? How these guys supposed to get a fair shake? And they're just looking at the numbers, and that's the whole problem, right? You got dummies voting for this. They're going to look at the numbers. If a guy put up 30, they're going to put him in the All NBA. If they didn't put up 30, so it's like, how are these guys supposed to feel? And it's like, I don't know. So it's like, it's weird. Like, I feel like this channel got like very like, Fred's a really, really bad person. And that's not really what I was trying to say. And I
think he's a great father. I think he's a
right?
good person, humanitarian. Like,
Fred
you know
Van Vliet
what?
Foundation, all that stuff, right?
Like, yo, I think, like, you know how Kyle was talking about in the bubble? How Kyle, every time they did some kind of, like, interview with him in the bubble, he would always talk about the subjects the reason why they went back to the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he did that so much for his community. And, like, to be honest, even Kyle will probably say, I don't know, like, I can't call it, but he probably would feel that he could have done more. I feel like he's the kind of guy that would think like that, right? But he still, no matter what, all the interviews, he said something, right? Yeah. And like, he did so much for his community. He's a good guy, like Kyle. And I think, like, Fred VanVleet's not too far behind, but like, you kind of covered it. And like, I think we just got to call it what it is. Like, unfortunately, this is what happened throughout this season. That doesn't it doesn't mean that all of a sudden Fred VanVleet is not going to continue like his humanitarian endeavors. If anything, It might help it, right? Because it's like what you were saying one time. You're saying like, oh, these guys, they were just run through money, right? Like, 25 million may be significant to you and I, but to them, that's like, $1 million on luggage. It can go by like no problem. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They got to help their team. They have, personal trainers that they a lot of people behind them trying to get them to the best of their ability. So I'm like, they run through money. So I can understand how he's like, yo, this could be my last chance. I'm going all in. I'm hijacking the offense. I don't care. Hey, Nurse gave him the keys anyway. So he's like, yo, I'm rolling. So it's like, I mean, it's just like he wasn't held accountable, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, like it's hard to support somebody who hijacks an offense when other guys are getting shafted, right? Yeah. So there's got to be a way to do it where you can get paid and it can be great, right? But I always notice like the people who cover this sport, they don't get paid a lot of money. All these beat writers, they'd be lucky to crack 100K. They're supposed to cover athletes who are getting paid 40 million, 50 million, and that number is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. So one day we're going to be talking about this like 20 years from now and be like, this dude's making $120 million a year and you're still making like maybe 180K. And it's like, it just, the gap widens. And so I feel like a lot of people get envious. They start to feel resentful. A lot of fans have that tone of like, yo, if I can go to my job and earn, $32 an hour, you can fucking, you don't get to sit out and get paid $1.5 million for a game. I get that. To me, one of the things that sort of shifted my view on this a little bit was listening to, was actually watching the women's game, actually, the college hoops, and seeing how much the NIL money is changing college hoops for women. Flau'jae Johnson comes to mind for LSU. I don't know if you know about her. Do you know about her?
No, sir.
So her dad was a rapper, Camouflage. He died at 20. So she goes, and her mom was pregnant with her. So she goes on to America's Got Talent when she was 14. She does a great job. I don't think she got through though. And then she decides to she got a record deal with Rock Nation. It's crazy. She becomes a national champion. She becomes SEC Freshman of the Year. And now she's got all this NIL money and she's making all this crazy money. And, then they got the Angel Reese. I was just like digging into these women a little bit and trying to see where they're coming from and how NIL has changed their lives and their families' lives. And so you think about it from that perspective, and you got to look at every athlete like a bit of an entrepreneur too, right? And we probably wouldn't be looking at Fred that way if he was just running a business this way, right? And probably, okay, trace your paper, get your money. The problem is, like, these women, I was supporting them so hard that it was like, because they were all playing team ball, they were all playing together. They didn't have a selfish bone in their body. When Angel Reese wins, the player of the tournament or the player of the Final Four or whatever, she literally and she genuinely says, she's like, any one of these players could have won it. She was amazing. She was amazing. And she meant it. And she's kept up that tone. And it's like, if he had that sort of selfless attitude, Kyle always wanted to get paid. And I supported it. Scottie wants to get paid. I support it. I'm sure OG wants to get some more of that Axe money. I'll support it. Because these guys, they play with their team. So getting paid is not the issue. Chasing all NBA is not the issue. It's how you do it. It's who suffers because you do it. And I think that's been sort of a line, and it's hard not to get upset because as a fan, you sort of see what this team could have been had that not been the case. I was thinking about making a video the other day about the Toronto Raptors versus the hypothetical Raptors. And the hypothetical Raptors play a completely different brand of basketball. And it's a very interesting brand of basketball, which involves Fred VanVleet coming off a lot of screens, maybe even coming off the bench sometimes, putting up 20, 30 big points as a microwave scorer off the bench. But he won't take that role, right? And it would help. It would help a lot. Having Gary in the starting lineup and putting Fred on the bench would probably solve a lot of problems with bench scoring, touches, chemistry, so much. So it's interesting. A lot of people think I just want, Scottie to have 35 possessions, in a row every single game. That's not it. I just want this team to play more to their strengths, and they don't have a superstar. So I'd like them to stop pretending they have one just because a couple of players want to get paid like ones, So
they let the leash go on Siakam, right? And Siakam, okay, he put in his work, he did his thing in the finals. Okay, the first game of the finals. Okay, that was awesome. But they unleashed him. They said, okay, it's your team. And I feel like they drafted Scottie based on the gifts that he has, right? Mm-hmm. All that natural ability that he has, right? So right. Siakam never had that, and still they let him off the leash. They let him go. Okay, it's your team. Shoot, whatever. Look at all the stuff that happened in the bubble. I feel like Ibaka. I remember Ibaka looking at this guy when he's just turning over the ball again against Boston. They just kept giving the ball back to Siakam. He kept turning it over, and I saw Ibaka ready to jump in, taking off his sweater, and the coach wouldn't put him in. right?
Mhm.
And this guy was just constantly turning over the ball. So I think that was like after Ibaka saw that, he's like, I gotta get out of here. Like, this is ridiculous. But why can't you do that with the kid, man? Like, we already know what he has. Like, let him go. Like, let him like he already has that Mamba mentality. Like, he wants to attack. Siakam doesn't want to do it. He's just like a deer in the headlights. Like, since he senses some opposition, he wants to pass it, and he keeps doing that same jumping pass that DeMar used to do. Like,
Yeah.
that's an easy turnover right away. Turns around. There's not like, gives his back to the defender, jumps and passes. Like, most of the time he turns it over. Either he over dribbles or he
Yeah.
does that turn around jumping pass thing, which is exactly what DeMar used to do. But
You play ball?
I think it's time. Like, especially after this season, like we gotta see, like, you gotta give the reins, because these guys don't want, like,
I think they will. I see Scottie
yeah.
on a lot of the branding for next year's, ticket package and renewal shit. And obviously, I don't know. I wonder if like everyone knows, right? It's like a big open secret that everyone knows he's the future. Everyone talks about him like he's the future. There's rumors that everyone was on the table for KD except for him. Kevin Garnett's talking about him. DeMarcus Cousins talking about him. Charles Oakley's talking about him. KD's talking about him. I don't think I've ever heard a Raptor this bigged up by other NBA stars in my life. Magic
Right.
Johnson. Who else? Like, who hasn't talked about him? Michael Jordan, maybe. You know,
Maybe. Yeah.
everyone's just, everyone's like, oh, he's the future, he's this, he's that. And, it's funny to hear all the other media talk about him one way and hear our own media talk about him, the other way, like he's a scrub, like he needs to be in the pipeline or something, like he should be in the G League or some shit. Having Mark Anderson up here in the fucking chat saying he's a bust. Like, what the fuck, man? I mean, it's crazy to me how I've never seen anything like this. Like, honestly, in my life, I've never seen a guy win Rookie of the Year and get dogged by his own fan base like this. I've never seen anyone win Rookie of the Year and just get like fucking shit on by their media all year. Like, it's so fucking weird. It's like, to me, it's like, why don't they like him? Is there something about him? Is it because he doesn't want to talk to them? It's not because, maybe he's a little some ways about, I don't know. I don't
He's
know
such
why.
a cool kid, man. He's a kid and he's fun too. Like, what do you want? That's like all the stuff that the media likes. He's talkative. He's happy. He's a big dude. The kid is handsome. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, what do you want? He's giving you all that presence.
Yeah, I
So
mean, like, obviously the brands don't agree because the brands are signing them up like one after another after another. Man, space is like everywhere. You know what I mean? But it's like the media heads, they just, they're, I don't know. Maybe it's extending old favors. The broadcast crew certainly does not talk about him the way that, the Minnesota Timberwolves broadcast was talking about Anthony Edwards. I mean, Anthony Edwards
right.
didn't have a great second year. He wasn't playing defense. He was like, he seemed like, oh, maybe this superstar we saw at the end of the first year isn't that guy. I never saw them throw him under the bus. No, because you preserve these assets. They're not, especially when you're a smaller market. I don't want to say small market, when you're a smaller market team, these assets don't come along every day. You strike out on top 4 picks all the time. Happens all the time. Just ask, guys like friggin' shit. Like, there's been so many top 4, top 5 picks that have flamed out. So to get a good one,
Anthony Bennett
Anthony
comes to
Bennett,
mind. Like, sorry.
Tristan Thompson, I mean,
Yeah,
well, he
Tristan
wasn't
Thompson.
like anything special,
No, he's just a garbage man.
yeah, he was a 4th pick, he was a rotation player. I mean, shit, it happens all the time. I think was Alex Len a top 5 pick? I think he was,
Oh, he was with us, right? Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Like, there's so many. Sheldon Williams. Sheldon Williams is the 5th overall pick. Like, my God, like people act like being top 5 means you're gonna be great. Sometimes you're not. And he has been, and he's been really good, and he's worked through it. So I'm looking forward to just this week for him. And if he shows up and he balls out, and I think he will. I really do. I feel like he's gonna come out tomorrow and put on a show. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if that's going to look like a 25 rebound game or some bullshit like that. I don't know if it's going to look like 20 assists or 35 points. It's going to be big, though. I feel like he's not going to let this team down no matter what happens. And I hope the crowd will support it, man. Like, I'm reading the room and I'm just like, I think Yahoo Sports released like 6 videos today talking about tomorrow's game, and they had like 400, 500 views. And I was like, shit, like nobody fucking cares. Everyone's just done with this team. And it's like, I get it. I'm with you. Like 3 months ago, I was there. I was like screaming for this to be over, but it didn't end. And so now, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to root against the team. You know, I'm supposed to like hate on them. I'm supposed to like not care. I don't know. Like for me, it's hard to do because like, you know, you put 82 games of your life. These dudes work hard. The defensive schemes are hard. Like to have to end it by getting bounced by the Bulls at home when you're supposed to be favored. I feel like that's just such a negative ending for them. And I would hate for them to carry that vibe out the door into the off season, you know? I feel like it would help to go into the off season with a little bit of like momentum juice, you know? But hey, I could go either way. I'm not going to be crying if they get bounced tomorrow. I'm not going to be like, you know, but I would be really interested to see a 7-game matchup against the Bucks. What do you think would happen in that?
Okay, so let's move forward to tomorrow. So I'm just thinking that the only man that could match DeMar DeRozan's passion to put the nail in the coffin on Masai's team is Scottie. Just because of the love of the game, his competitive, like he's so competitive. He knows like how much is riding on this game. As unimportant as it is to a lot of guys on this team, he's not one of those people that thinks that way. So I think that he's the only one that can match that passion because I see DeMar coming out like guns blazing, like Mamba. Because, you know, like DeMar idolized Kobe. That was his guy, right? That was who
Scottie did too.
Scottie did too, right? So we're going to see a battle for real. Like if this is Scottie's team and he wants to kind of like make a statement saying like, it's mine now. Like this is my corner. He's basically needs to take out DeMar tomorrow or match whatever. Like what I know it's gonna be a 33, 35 point game from DeMar. Like I know he's gonna go
not
off.
performed well against OG Anunoby, believe it or not.
Oh.
So OG versus DeMar in possessions where DeMar's been covered by OG. I think the numbers were astounding. It was like 8 assists, 8 turnovers. It was like 9 shot attempts in like 29, 30 minutes. And he has like 18 shot attempts when he's not being guarded by DeMar. Not being guarded by OG. OG has his number. Like, and look, we were Raptor fans. We remember DeMar going up against longer defenders. It is literally the one thing you can do against DeMar, man. I was watching, you remember the interview I did with Scottie's trainer?
You did? No, I'm sorry. I haven't seen that.
You didn't see it? Okay.
No,
well,
sir.
Go check it.
I haven't found it.
If you it's a good one. It looks like this.
All right, got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Someone link it to him in the comments. Yeah, like it was a good one, and I remember he was talking about dribble too much, and you know who dribble too much is? Johnny Stephen.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's on Instagram and he's like doing all the cool stuff with the handle life and stuff. So I was watching DeMar's like work with Johnny Stephen and Chris Paul, and they're working with the same heavy ball that Scottie's working with and stuff. And it was like really interesting to watch. And I'm like, man, DeMar is so fucking skilled, so skilled. Like he could do anything on the basketball court. He's like a magician. Like his footwork, his handle, his technique. Like I talk skill versus talent all the time. DeMar is like skill to 100, unless you're talking 3-point shooting. It's like the only thing. Like, apart from 3-point shooting, like anything inside the 3-point arc, he's like possibly like one of the greatest players of all time. But it's like, what is the gap between DeMar and like someone like a Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter? Why did he never Kawhi? Why did he never take that step? Because it's like, you look at the talent package, the footwork, the skill, even his passing, the strength, the balance, the coordination, the reps, the release, everything is perfect. He's literally like, it's like if you're a basketball purist, if you like actually like love basketball, like watching DeMar is like watching music. He's amazing. Why can't he be like a superstar? What is the gap between him and those dudes that I just referenced. And it's like, is it as simple enough to say it's just a few inches? It's like a few inches in wingspan. It's a few inches in vert. It's a few inches on the legs. It's it's a few, inches on the hands. You know what I mean? So it's like, I remember this interview where, Phil Jackson was asked between Michael and Kobe and, what's the difference? And he says, it's the hands, it's the hands. Michael had perfect hands. And that was just like this massive differentiation between the perfect, the perfect player, which is Michael Jordan, and the perfect replica, which is Kobe Bryant. And why Kobe was just always like 80% of Michael all the time. And why someone like DeMar is always going to be like 60 to 70% of Kobe, even though he has all the same shit. He has all the same moves. He can do a lot of the same shit, but it's like, it's just a quarter second slower. It's like a quarter second lower, a quarter inch lower. The release is a little bit worse. And I remember DeMar's wingspan wasn't great. I think it was like 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", and he's like 6'6". And then you look at someone like Kawhi and he's like 7'2", and he has these massive hands, and you're like,
hands.
that's the gap. That is the gap. That gap
Okay.
comes up on defense. The gap comes up on offense.
Oh my
It's
god.
like those massive shoulders. And it's like,
Yes,
if
yes.
if
He
Ka-
moves people like, oh man, damn.
here's a crazy take. If Kawhi Leonard woke up tomorrow with DeMar DeRozan's skill in his body, he'd be a better player. And if DeMar DeRozan woke up tomorrow in Kawhi Leonard's body, he would be like one of the best players in the league. It's just, there's such a gap. And so you look at, I think some people might think that's crazy, but I don't think it is. And I think that those physical advantages come in, like when you look at a guy like Giannis, he's nowhere near as skilled as a guy like DeMar DeRozan. Not even close. Not even one. It's not even close. His passing isn't there, shooting, but the physical ability to do certain things on the basketball court, like he takes 2 steps from the 3-point line, he's in the key. And it's like when you can do that, and I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff in Scottie. So it's like, okay, because if Scottie and if Scottie and DeMar do the same move, like if Scottie can get his skill set to like, and that's kind of what DeMarcus Cousins was saying. If he can get the midi post, thing, he's beast. That's what I'm talking about. Because if he can figure out some of the stuff that Siakam has figured out, which is a lot of the skill development stuff, then his physical talents and his like actual mental talents for the game would take him so much further. Like the cap on potential, like when people say, could this guy even be better than Siakam? And it's like, yeah, like he could wake up tomorrow and maybe like something clicks and he'd be better than Siakam.
He just has that killer instinct, man. He just wants it so bad. Like it's like,
yeah, it's that, but it's also like did you play ball?
yes, sir.
You did, okay. So like when you do like a little like that, and then you take one step and you pull up, go back. Some guys get like a little bit of space on that. They get like a small pocket of sunlight. Some guys get like a full foot. Because they're just so freaking fast. They're so tall. They're whatever, and they're just open all the time, and they're always gonna be open. And it's like with Scottie, it's like if he can speed up some of the moves that he's doing right now and just get a little bit more efficient with them, like that midi turnaround thing that he's been working on, that he did a couple times in the Lakers game, and then he did against the Sixers. Like that move, once it becomes perfected, it's unstoppable. It cannot be stopped. You can't stop it with one defender. There's no one defender in the league that can stop that shot. You can't block it. You can't contest it. You have no pocket because there's too much separation from where he starts the move to where he ends it. Because he starts it like his foot almost on the baseline, and 1 step, 2 step, he's almost at the free throw line. You're like, how the fuck are you supposed to stop that? And it's like his legs are so long, his arms are so long, and his like his ability to sort of feel the defense and see the court and see where the second, third defender is coming. So it's like once that scoring becomes unstoppable, then the passing that we've seen just goes to like the next level. And so it's like some people think, well, how far is a guy who's averaging 15.7 rebounds, 4 assists from being a superstar? They're thinking like he's got years to go. And I'm like, bro, he's got like, he might have like half a summer to go. Like we might be in July and he might be a completely different player. And at that point, he's in July, and it's like, oh, he's just killing dudes now. And it could happen so fast, or it could take a whole year. I don't know. Whenever that switch
Nah.
turns on for him, when the alpha scorer switch, when that turns on, when he cannot be guarded one-on-one, like right now, he lets people off way too easy. I'm a big critic of it. Like he'll see a guy in the post, or either he doesn't get the ball or he doesn't demand the ball enough. He needs to demand the ball. If he gets Patrick Beverley in the post tomorrow and he doesn't demand the ball, that's on him. He needs to demand the ball. And he did that early in his career. And it's like, I didn't see too much of that this year. You know, he would just be like, all right. And he just roll around and sit in the corner. And it's like, I get it. You know, you have an offense where all these guys are trying to get theirs going, and you sometimes can't get yours going. And it's something that I was noticing with Jimmy Butler. He's kind of the same way too. You know, he doesn't dominate possessions. He'll let other guys do it. But then when the playoffs come, he takes over. You know, it's Jimmy Bucket's time. He suddenly like where the fuck this guy, he's averaging 21 points per game in the season. Now he's averaging like 30. How the hell did that happen? You need him, he can show up. You know, some guys can't score in the playoffs. I expect a big game from him tomorrow. But what do you expect if they make it past the Bulls tomorrow?
So if they make it past the Bulls, what, they got to go against the Hawks?
They got to go against the Heat.
Oh, the Heat. Oh, my gosh. Well. I mean,
In Miami.
I'm not a... Oh, okay. In Miami. So what's the connection to Scottie in Miami? Because you said he shows up.
He shows up. He's from West Palm Beach, man.
All right, that's his hood. Okay. I mean, relatively.
It's close.
Right?
It's close.
Yeah.
Miami, West Palm Beach, really close. His family's going to be in attendance. His friends are going to be in attendance. He'll probably have like 150, 200 tickets to sell.
He's probably been to the arena so many times.
He has.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the familiarity, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So like at least he's not gonna be nervous. I mean, so there's two different reasons why. First of all, he understands that. I don't know. There's no fear with him. Like there's never that fear, right?
Yeah.
There's that aspect, and there's also the aspect of like he's familiar. Like this is hometown. I got something to play for. Like you get like a little extra pop in your step.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You see, look, I love Kyle Lowry, but I think he's at a point in his career where like his effectiveness is, I don't. His effectiveness is he only has like.
Did you watch tonight's game?
No, I did not. Sorry.
He put up 30, 31 or 32 tonight. He had a season high tonight. Kyle was amazing.
Oh my god! That's sick.
Yeah, he was great.
Okay.
I mean, like right now, we're potentially facing two road teams winning right now. Minnesota is up 12 against the Lakers right now. So LeBron's like, wow. I think everyone picked the Lakers. They were like, there's no Rudy, there's no McDaniels. Like they're definitely gonna get cooked. And you know, D'Angelo Russell and Darvin Ham are just fucking this up somehow. I still somehow expect the Lakers to pull this out, but like Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards are no scrubs, man. I don't know. But I mean,
they're not really
Anthony
that
Edwards
battle
has
tested.
5 points. Anthony Edwards has 5 points.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
You
crazy.
see what No, like I thought he's been all over the place this year, right? I thought this was his time, right? But like not like this, you know, like the Matrix.
Cat showed up, man. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists so far. And I mean, for the Lakers side, it's been LeBron, but like Anthony Davis hasn't really been great. 6 for 13, but LeBron's got 25 points in 27 minutes. He's doing all right. But they're not really getting much. They really need something from D'Angelo Russell, man. He's like 2 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists. I don't know. They could get back. I mean, you know, that's the kind of good thing about being 7-8. You do get a second chance, and you get it at home against the other team. But then but now the Lakers are gonna have to face the Denver Nuggets if they lose this game, and they win the next one. Anyway, point being, do you think the Raptors can beat the Hawks? I'm sorry, the Heat.
Yeah, I think they can beat them.
I do.
Yeah, because I think so it just
I don't give them a good chance. I'm like 35, 40% they could beat them, but the Heat could also kill them. I think it just because it would be at home for them, you know. But I don't know. And And then what about against the Bucks? Like, how many games would you give them against the Bucks? You think they could steal 1, 2,
Nah, they're
0?
getting swept, bro. They're getting swept. They're
They're
not
getting
that prepared.
swept.
Yeah, no, they're not getting. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, man, this year, the theme was like find a way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, I would always make time for it because I'm watching them at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have it on my phone, and I would have like the earbud in, and occasionally I would like take a look, but I'm listening to the game. So usually I would always watch them no matter what, right? Just because I know they're playing good basketball, but like this year it's just like, man, they're so inconsistent, and I just man, like against the Bucks, man, these guys, it's just the way that I see it. At the end of the day, is just who's more of a team, who is more going in there, more united. And unfortunately, our team is not united enough to be tested that way.
Here's a fun fact for you: play-in stats don't count. Did you know this? They don't count as regular season stats. They don't count as playoff stats. They just don't get counted. So, yeah, they're not playoff stats. They're not regular season stats. They're just nothing. So, I mean, there's really nothing holding anyone back from sharing the ball for once. You're not padding your regular season totals. You're not technically padding your play-in totals. And it seems to me very clear that this team, Fred, Pascal, whatever, maybe less so Pascal, because I think he's already missed out on All-NBA, so his motivation probably is done on that front. But Fred, he has a lot to still play for because, going into the season right now, team gets bounced in the play-in. Maybe he doesn't have like the greatest contract negotiation leverage going into the offseason. So yeah, I mean, look, there's one way to look at it where everyone's just ready for this to be over, right? Fans are ready for this to be over. Team's ready for this to be over. Just like, fuck this. Fire Nick Nurse or let him quit or do whatever. Trade some dues. Let us know who's coming back. Hire the new coach. Then we'll talk, Okay. We could have that. Or, you could look at it and say, season's been rough. It's been terrible. Let's go out and give one final good performance. Suddenly you have a great performance. Suddenly you start catching a vibe. Someone says sorry, and then you catch on, I don't know. I've never really seen a team like flounder into the end of the season and then pick it up in the playoffs or whatever. I've never seen it. So, I mean, usually it's like in the last 2-3 weeks into the playoffs, that's like your last opportunity to start like catching a good vibe. That's usually it. And I feel like I'm trying to read this fan base, and I feel like those 2 losses to Boston, that was rock bottom for this fan base. I think fan bases had like the whole fan base just had their hand on the power off button, like literally since January. Like, do I turn this off or do I not turn this off? Okay, well, Scottie had a good game there. Siakam had a big game, 52. Okay, not going to turn this off. They traded for Jakob, looks good. Defensive rating, offensive rating, blah, 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 blah. All right, they won against Charlotte. Don't really fucking care about that. See what they can do against Boston. Fuck this, right? I'm done. I get it. But, the way I see it, I was arguing with this dude on Twitter. I don't know who he is or whatever, but I was saying this is probably one of the most talented, 9 seeds I've seen on paper, the Raptors. I feel like they're good. That's been the most frustrating part. I wasn't crying all year and screaming all year about some bullshit team that was terrible. But I will present a sort of counterpoint, to a lot of people who say the Raptors regressed this year. I think the East got better. Number one. When you look at the Vegas odds coming into the season, Bucks, Celtics, Cavs are all over. Sixers, I think, are over. Almost every single person from 5 to like 10 is under. But then you look at 11, 12, 13, 14, they're like all over. So like no one is expecting Orlando and Indiana to be competitive this year. And for a large part of the season, they took a lot of wins away from teams. Like Orlando beat us twice. They beat Boston twice. You know what I mean? Indiana was like really competitive. So it's like these teams sort of screwed up the win total by making the East really deep. Like there were, like, look at the bottom of the West. You know, you have like San Antonio, Houston that they didn't even show up to anything. Like they were just terrible throughout, you know? But like we didn't just have like bottom feeders, consistent bottom feeders. Like I feel like even 4 weeks ago we were still talking about Orlando and Indiana potentially being in the play-in. So that was like a 12 deep type of team. Also, I think the Raptors got away with some stuff last year because of the no fans. If you remember, early on they
Yeah.
weren't allowed to have fans, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of teams are just not sending complete rosters over the border, and then Fred VanVleet is just padding up his stat totals and whatever. And you know, I think we got some wins there, but that didn't happen this year. Teams were sending full teams, so I feel like okay, we ended the season on 41-41, and last year I think we won 48. But it's like if you adjust it, it's almost like last year maybe correctly we should have won 44 instead of 48 if the schedule was a little bit more balanced. So really, it's like you went from 44 to 41. That's not really like a big drop off, but everyone's going to be like, oh, seven games when you were expecting like a better. But it's like the East just feels better to me. It's like Donovan Mitchell coming over, and then you know Kevin Durant being healthy for the first half, and it's like some of it is schedule luck too. We never faced the Mikal Bridges version of the Nets. All our games against the Nets were against KD and Kyrie, and we lost all of them. You know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
like, is that luck? Like, if you just flip the schedule around, maybe we get a couple of those wins. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like the Raptors kind of got shafted in the strength of schedule, in my opinion. But yeah. Anyway, I think they could get a couple wins against the Bucks. I really do. I feel like, honestly, some people think I'm crazy, and maybe I am. I wouldn't feel this way against Boston. I would feel like Boston would smack us. But something about that Bucks team feels vulnerable. I don't trust Coach Bud. I usually don't. Even after he won a championship, I still don't. I've watched him implode with the Atlanta Hawks so many times in the first round, second round. And there's just something about Chris Middleton and this roster. I feel like he's shot really poorly this year. Now, I could look like an idiot. He could turn it around. Maybe he got some rest and he's feeling better. Maybe he was saving himself for the playoffs because he's a vet. And they are the number one team in the East. But to me, it's like they're an older team. I know Drew can probably clamp, but I like our track record against Giannis. I feel like we're one team that could actually slow him down. And if their shooters can't make shots, like if they just have a cold streak for a couple games, I think we can get a couple.
Do you think Masai developed this 6'9" vision so we can stop Giannis?
I think it's all about Giannis and Tatum for us, like stopping those two guys, and Joel Embiid. Like we planned to have like the right personnel to bother those guys. It seems like all year we've been preparing to face those three guys because we knew we'd eventually have to. And, you know, I think we've done a good job. I don't remember any massive explosions from those guys. So, you know, a lot of the time we've stopped the main guy and then some second guy goes off for 40.
Max Seal?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that guy's awesome, man. Holy.
Exactly. So the Sixers would scare me.
Yeah.
The Cavs don't scare me as much.
No.
Although Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs is pretty scary. I thought he's had a pretty good track record. Like Jordan-esque track record in the playoffs in terms of just his scoring output. So what he could do with that team, I don't know. The Knicks don't scare me at all. Like at all. Like I would pick the Raptors over the Knicks. I would say it's like a dead even type of series with those two teams. If the Raptors can get clicking. The Nets, dead even. I'm cool with it. Like maybe the Nets are worse. Yeah, so really it's just the Boston Celtics and the Sixers that really scare me. The Bucks, I'm like, I picked them. I would pick the Bucks to win, but I'm like, I'm not picking them to sweep. I don't think so. I think we can get a couple. Anyway, man, thanks a lot for calling in, man. I really appreciate it. Call back anytime. Good talk.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate I appreciate everything you've done, and I like the way you write and speak, and thank you for all the the honesty.
Appreciate it, man.
No problem.
Cheers. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna I've been thinking about this watch party idea for tomorrow. I don't know how I feel about it. I will tell you what something I was thinking about. So next year, you know how I've been complaining about the Raptors podcast pretty much like the entire year about how they're super biased and how I just hate the way that they're always making excuses for all this bullshit. So I was thinking next year, if I could find somebody who can do the play-by-play for me, I would love to do a replacement audio track for the Raptors broadcast. Maybe like 10 times in a year. Maybe it's like a members only type of thing. Maybe it's Patreon. I don't know. But it'd be cool, right? Like to just be able to honestly call the game, be able to tell you exactly what plays they're running, be able to tell you who botched that assignment as it's happening and be honest about it and be like, that was a terrible shot. That wasn't a terrible shot. And make it funny, you know, and I don't know, like, so you could just literally press mute and then you could turn on, you know, YouTube or some, you know, a live, get K Money to do it. That'd be cool. Yeah. I mean, I'll talk to people in the off season, who might be interested in doing something like that. But I think it could really catch a wave. And honestly, it would give me a chance to do something I've never done before, which is color commentary. I would love to do it. So I was thinking of trying my hand at that tomorrow, but to be honest, I just want to focus on the game tomorrow. I really just want to be invested in the moment. And I feel like if I'm trying to, you know, like if the game comes down to like one of those last second things, I'm just going to be dead silent. And yeah, I don't know. It's probably not going to be very entertaining for anybody. Get Coach Mo to do it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'll talk to people that I know. Just, you know, honestly, I would want to do it with somebody who just really, really deeply understands basketball. So we can do both sides of it. You know, we can do the narrative side of it, the commentary side of it, the play-by-play side of it, like actually, you know, break it down. And yeah, look, just a bit of an olive branch to the Raptors community out there. I realize this has been a really tough season. I realize the fan base is like going at each other's necks and all that stuff. I realize that this channel has definitely swung way more negative than I would have ever imagined in my wildest dreams last year. This season has been so frustrating, man. So frustrating to watch some of this shit. But I know this is going to shock some people. I'm not a negative person. I don't want to be negative. I don't like being negative. I don't feel good about it. I felt it was necessary to call some shit out, but I don't vibe negative. Like in my day-to-day life, I'm a positive person. I have positive ideas. I like vibe with positive people. I actually try to like keep myself away from negative people. So I would like to return to positively scheduled content that will, you know, provide insight and uplift as opposed to, you know, negatively leaning content that's just talking shit about people all day and all night. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to just be able to say like something and it's like just because you're positive it doesn't mean that you can't be critical. All right? So it's about like changing the tone a little bit and not just being so hopefully like, you know, I've done a better job of it last week. You know, it's a little bit easier to listen to and it's honestly it's a genuine shift. And it's because of Flage, man. Like I'm telling you, this girl is fucking inspiring as hell. And everything she's talking about is so, I don't know how to explain it, man. Like I really did a deep dive into this LSU team, man. And these women have such incredible stories. Alexis Morris just got drafted WNBA yesterday, second round. Shout out to Alexis Morris. Awesome. She's an awesome player. She's such an awesome player. And she put up 27 points in the Final Four, man. She's 5'6". This girl is just, and I mean, her story is incredible. It's all about second chances and how I don't know how to explain it, but the more you found out about these girls, the more you realized how positive their message was. And I know that they were billed as America's villains for doing that whole thing to Caitlin Clark, but like, yo, like the more I dug into these women, the more I felt like inspired about like having a platform. I mean, these women had a huge platform. This is a very small platform, but like being able to use your platform to like make people's days better You know what I mean? So I would like to be more positive as a human being going forward on these lives. I'll still keep it straight with you. I'll still tell you exactly, what I don't like. If I don't like a trade, I'm going to say it, but I'm not going to sit there for like 45 minutes and get angry about it. You know what I mean? Like, um, there's a way to be real and really honest without also being a downer and negative and cynical and petty and all that crap. So yeah. Who has the better coach tomorrow? Um, it's a wash. I like Billy Donovan a lot. Um, but the, yeah, man, I mean, like the Bulls defense has been really good with Pat Bev, man. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, like it's going to be a cakewalk. I just picked the Raptors to win but hey, I got to tell you, I listened to DeMar. I read his interview. He's coming for blood, man. He's I just think that we just have some guys who can attack him and they can't really do anything. Who is Zach LaVine supposed to guard on this team that isn't going to kill him? Who's DeMar supposed to guard that's not going to kill him? You want an X factor. You know how you watch those Raptors games and say the X factor of the game. X factor of the game is, will we give the ball to the person who deserves to have the ball in that moment? Can we be unselfish tomorrow? If we can play unselfish, if we can play like the Hawks played today, where the ball moves and it hums and it finds open shooters in the corner, come hell or high water. Like there's so many times tonight where I'm watching the Hawks play and like DeJounte Murray fucks up a play or Jalen Johnson fucks up a play. And it's like, I'm so used to watching Raptors basketball. So I'm like, this guy's not going to get the ball for like another like 8 possessions. And boom, Trae Young just pass them the ball next time. And it's just water in the bridge. And that's how basketball needs to be played. You just need to move on next play. Like there needs to be no grudges on the basketball court. Like you can't be playing like, oh, I'm going to give you the ball once, and if you fuck up, like you're not getting the ball again for the rest of the quarter. That's how like trash teams play. And to be honest, that's how we've played a lot this year. So if we play unselfish and we stay committed, in my opinion, if we stay committed to playing team basketball tomorrow, we should be able to kill this team. I'm not even gassing. Like I think they just don't match up well. Like OG Anunoby in the post against DeMar DeRozan, like that's a wrap. Like if he seals him, it's nothing that he can do. And Vucevic isn't doing shit either. Like they don't have a shot blocker. Like what are you supposed to do if Pascal Siakam drives? Like who's supposed to guard Patrick? So Patrick Williams guarding Pascal Siakam, who's guarding Scottie Barnes? You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be someone that's got a clear mismatch that they're going to have to double team. And it's just like open shooter. So it's like if they play to their strengths tomorrow, it could be like a 25-point blowout. It should be. But it probably won't be because they often don't play to their strengths. But I'm hoping they do. And, on the road against Miami, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tougher because that team will not kill itself the way it did tonight. And I do believe that Jimmy Butler, in a situation where it's win or go home, is going to be a different animal. I trust his track record. I know some people are going to be, kind of down on him after tonight's game, but Jimmy Butler in do or die situations he's a different dude. So I trust him to show up. I'll probably pick the Miami Heat to win that game, but if the Raptors can get out of that, I expect a couple games against Milwaukee. Let's go Raptors. I don't know. Is that, I don't know. I tried. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a good night. And, big shout outs to Diabloloco for calling in. It was a really good chat. And thanks to all of you guys for the comments. Have a good one. See you tomorrow.